All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we are going to be talking about Errol Spence Jr.'s claims about Terence Crawford and his fight with Shawn Porter being confirmed and what it means for Terence Crawford and his legacy. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to be in the 154-pound division, where we're going to talk about some news that came out this week, where some things that Errol Spence Jr. and his trainer Derrick James had said about Terence Crawford's fight with Shawn Porter that have now been confirmed by Kenny Porter and Shawn Porter. Now, before I get into that, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are new to the channel, please hit the like button. Please hit that like button, or at the very least, because it is absolutely 100% free, hit the subscribe button so we can chop it up about the biggest topics in boxing, and also any topic that you want to talk about, we will talk about on the live streams that we do every morning at around 8 a.m. Central Standard Time on the weekends. But on the weekends, we go somewhere around 10 a.m., 10:30, because we work basically 365. So got to give myself a couple hours in the morning, a couple days a week. But subscribe so you guys can attend those. We have great conversations. Also, if you're new to the channel, if you're a longtime subscriber and supporter, thank you guys so much for the support. And again, thank you to everybody that supports these videos through the super thanks that you can see below in the left-hand corner, the lower right-hand corner of the video. We don't have sponsors for these videos, so it really do rely upon you guys, supporting the channel in that regard. But if you can't, again, everybody understands that. Just hit the like button. It doesn't cost anything. But let's get into this, okay? Yeah. Derrick James had said about when he was asked about Terence Crawford, when it was apparent that, or it looked as if, or seemed as if, Terence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. were going to fight. To me, it doesn't seem like that anymore. But during all that talk, questions were being asked about, how Terence Crawford is a dominant welterweight, how, he was an undisputed champion in 140, champion in 135. And when he fought Shawn Porter, he was able to knock out Shawn Porter, where Errol Spence Jr., one of the most difficult fights, if not the most difficult fight that Errol Spence Jr. had during his career, was with Shawn Porter. So people in Terence Crawford's camp as well talked about how, what they did to Shawn Porter versus what Errol Spence Jr. did to Shawn Porter. Now, and I'm telling you, man, talk to you like you're sitting right here in the room with me. It's a real funny thing how people forget that there's a concept called time. And doing something, beating Michael Jordan in a game of basketball when he is 40 years old or 50 years old is not the same thing as beating him in a game of one-on-one when he's 22 years old or 23 years old. Likewise, in boxing, beating somebody when they are at the top of their career and they're a champion is not necessarily the same thing as beating them several years later when they really are right at about the end of a very, very long career. And in the case of Shawn Porter, when I say a long career, I mean probably since he was 12 years old and now he's 33. So 20 plus years. And then you add to it a special thing about boxing, which is when you fight somebody after they've been in a very, very brutal fight. Because unlike basketball or tennis or anything like that, other than where there are injuries that occur, right? If somebody tears an ACL or Bo Jackson tears up his hip, right? Then, when they come back, they may not be as mobile as they used to be, but nothing like that in boxing. It's nothing like it is in boxing, where you fight somebody and they're literally hitting you in the head, and hitting you in the head, hitting you in your body, bruising your internal organs. You only have so many fights in you in boxing, and when you go over that limit, you are no longer the same guy that you were before, and that is what Kenny Porter himself has said now. It said, look, man, I would have taken Errol Spence Jr. to beat Terence Crawford. And when Sean Porter fought Terence Crawford, it was a different Sean. Sean was, the career was pretty much already over, pretty much went out there. Now this is me extrapolating on it. Right. Pretty much just, that was one last hurrah. Right. One last time in the ring. After that, we knew it was going to be over, pretty much. Now, Sean Porter said that he had made the decision to retire, and he knew he was going to retire before the Terence Crawford fight. So basically confirming what everybody is, well, not everybody, people with some common sense understood, which was Errol Spence Jr. fought a much more fresh, lively champion in Sean Porter, who was out there to prove a point and was going in there to win that fight, and had all of the energy he had necessary to prepare to the fullest for the fight. And Terence got in there with a Sean Porter that had already had a severe fight with Errol Spence Jr., had already been told that he needed to get hip surgery, right? Hip surgery. So knowing that his hips aren't operating correctly, got in there with a more depleted version of him. And that's why Kenny Porter threw the towel in. As he said, look, man, we're not in it. Threw the towel into the fight. And I'm really glad that Kenny Porter said that, so I don't have to hold anything against Kenny Porter anymore, because it was very, very clear that Sean Porter could have continued in that fight, but they said, no, not worth it for the rest of our lives, taking any more punishment, going to end it. So what does that mean for Terence Crawford? It really means, if people that are really closely paying attention to it, right? He's got Sean Porter on his resume. However, he's got Sean Porter in his resume the same way that Trevor Burbick, or let me do him a little bit more credit than that, same way that Larry Holmes, Mike Tyson has Larry Holmes on his resume. Right? Mike Tyson knocked out Larry Holmes. And trust me, that ain't the same Larry Holmes. That's not the same Larry Holmes that was fighting in 1978, 1979. Big difference between even just something. I don't know if that happened around 83, 84, something like that, but a much different fighter. So that's the type of Sean Porter he has on his resume. It really doesn't speak very much about how great a fighter Terence Crawford is. And that's just a fact, not saying that he's not one. So if he does not wind up fighting either Errol Spence Jr. or, say, a young Jaron Ennis in his career, then I'm telling you, people are going to be looking at that resume. I'm telling you, the same people out here that are out here talking about how the PBC, that can't stand the PBC, right? Think no matter what the actual facts are out there, that Errol Spence Jr. ducked him. When it comes time to talk about the accolades of Terence Crawford later on, I'm not talking about the Hall of Fame, I'm talking about years later, when there's some other young welterweight out there and we're talking about who could beat him, I'm telling you, when they bring up that young guy's name, and I don't know who he is, but when they bring up that young guy's name that they're trying to pub, and they bring up Terence Crawford, you better believe they're going to walk down Terence Crawford's resume and eviscerate everybody on it and talk about how he beat them when they were old. He didn't fight this guy. He never fought Errol Spence Jr. Sean Porter was already old and was retiring. They're going to do all of that to Terence Crawford. Remember, because that is what they do to everybody. They do that to everybody, especially guys. The biggest example of that for me is Joe Frazier, because Joe Frazier, when in the 1970s, right, a whole bunch of people were like, oh, he's better than Ali. Ali's overrated. Ali's this, he's that, he's all of that stuff. And when Joe Frazier beat him, hey, man, the best thing in the world. But nobody brings up Joe Frazier. Nobody brings up Joe Frazier when they're talking about, is he better than Tyson Fury? Is he better than Vladimir Klitschko? Is he better than Anthony Joshua? Is he better the flavor of the day? The only people that they compare him to is the guy is the other guy, Muhammad Ali. And I'm telling you that is because Muhammad Ali did fight and beat everybody during the prime of his career, and even there got in there against a guy who's a top 5 heavyweight all time, and Larry Holmes when he had Alzheimer's. And so Terence Crawford, the way that his career has been put together, it's not of the same ilk as a guy like Errol Spence, let alone a guy like or Floyd Mayweather Jr. or a guy like Ali. I'm telling you, this type of conversation, which most reasonable people know to be the truth about Sean Porter, is going to make people look askance at why Terence Crawford did not fight Errol. And when all that time comes around, people are not going to be looking like, oh, you remember Stephen Espinoza said this and this, because people are not going to remember who Stephen Espinoza was. Unless you are somebody like us who were really paying attention in the minute, right? You don't know who the promoter was and which promoters were around when Jack Dempsey didn't fight Langford. Didn't fight Sam Langford. All you're gonna know is that Jack Dempsey didn't fight Sam Langford. So as good as they say Jack Dempsey never fought that guy because he drew a color line. But anyway, it is what it is. And with that, you let me know what you think. And I'm out. Deuces.